the political party AMLO formed after his second unsuccessful attempt at the presidency.
Andrés Manuel has made it his priority to improve the lives of ordinary Mexicans with investment. And when people ask where the funds will come from, our answer is that we will put an end to the corruption and send that money where it is destined in the first place.
Andrés Manuel representa el inicio del cambio.
Andrés Manuel represents the start of a change in Mexican politics. His election will mean that the public has accepted a different form of politics and wants to see change. We won't see a huge difference, but rather his election will show that Mexico is ready for a real political shakeup.
Observers wonder whether he would tone down the divisive rhetoric of his campaign and what that might mean for the future of Mexico's marginalized masses, who would form the bedrock of his mandate. Alistair Baverstock, CGTN, Mexico City.
I am now joined in the studio by Professor Jiang Shixue, Director of the Center for Latin American Studies of Shanghai University. Professor Jiang, welcome to Global Watch. Before we take a hard and close look at the president-elect, Mexico's campaign season this time has been nothing short of deadly. Over 130 candidates murdered in the 9 months leading up to the end of the election. What do you make of that?
Well, I would say that this kind of political system in Mexico has this kind of bloody tradition. I still remember that in the early 1990s, one of the presidential candidates was killed. And this time, these victims are relatively low officials, low-rank officials, like competitors for the mayors or congressmen in the lower levels. And also, I would say that in the past decade or so, Mexico has been suffering from this kind of terrible drug crimes. These drug cartels are very powerful. They will tell these presidential candidates or other politicians, if you want to punish me, then I'm going to kill you first. Okay, so we can say that this election is really bloody. And I'm very sorry to say that in the near future, this kind of tradition will not be changed.
Let's talk about the man of the hour, Lopez Obrador. Here's what we know about him. This is a populist leader. He has tried twice to win the presidential election in 2006 and 2012 respectively, failed, but he made it this time. He will also be the first leftist leader in Mexico for a very long time. What do you think are the primary reasons behind his win this time?
The political system in Mexico has been dominated by two parties. These two parties are really quite powerful. And one of the party, called the PRI party, maintained its status of ruling party for 71 years. So you can see that this kind of political tradition is not so welcomed by the Mexican voters. They want to see changes. And on the other hand, Obrador also say, we want to changes. So you can see that Obrador and the voters both want to see changes. So we are going to see that there should be some kind of changes. And also Obrador said many fancy words, like fight against corruption, improve the living standards of
Professor
the,
Jiang, I'm
of the
sorry
ordinary
to cut
people.
you off. We want to take our viewers to some of those live pictures coming out of Mexico City, where election officials are expected to announce preliminary results. We do know that Lopez Obrador is the apparent winner of the presidential election. We're expected to hear from the election officials there. As you can see, jubilation at the scene as people there celebrate the win of Lopez Obrador.
Este es un día histórico y será una noche memorable. Una mayoría importante de ciudadanos ha decidido iniciar la cuarta transformación de la vida pública de México. Agradezco a todos los que votaron por nosotros.
I say thank you to everybody who has voted for us.
Su confianza
has trusted us to head this process of true change. I respect to everybody who has voted everybody else and other parties. I also express respect for the three candidates to the presidency of the Republic of Mexico and the other coalitions that today have recognized and conceded our victory. I call to all the Mexican people to a reconciliation, and focus on the national interest. As Vicente Guerrero said, Patria goes first. The country goes first. The new project, the new national project, wants to establish a true democracy. We don't bet to construct a dictatorship, open and not open. Change will be deep, but will follow the legal order. There's going to be business freedom, expression freedom, association freedom, and freedom of religion. We will guarantee all the individual freedoms and social, political, and civilian rights sacred on our Constitution. We will respect the autonomy of the Mexican Bank. The new government will keep financial discipline and fiscal discipline. We will recognize all the compromises made with domestic and foreign banks, the contracts, the deals of energy sector will be revised to prevent corruption or illegalities. If we found anomalies that can affect the national interest, we will go to the National Congress, to courts, national and international. We will follow always the legal way. We will not act randomly way. We will not expropriate goods. Transformation that we will do will consist basically to halt corruption. We won't have any problem to do it because the Mexican people is the heir of great civilizations. That's why the Mexican people is smart, honest, and worker. Corruption is not a phenomenal, cultural phenomenon. It's a phenomenon based on political decadency. This evil is the principal cause.
A victory speech there by Lopez Obrador there. Let me go back to my studio guest, Professor Jiang Shixue, here in the studio. In that victory speech, he has talked about preventing corruption, halting corruption. He has outlined some of his goals for the years to come. We were talking about how he promised the changes for the people, something the Mexican people have demanded for a very long time. Please continue, Professor Jiang.
Well, I would say his job ahead is really quite tough. First of all, he must pay more attention to economic growth rate. Without economy, there will be nothing at all. And in the past 1 or 2 years, the economic growth rate is not so high, only 1 or 2%, and also very high inflation rate. So I think the government needs to attract foreign investment. Now, the point is his image outside is not so good because here, as you said, he is considered as a populist. So foreign investors are not so happy to see that his policy might be changed. So I would say that the government needs really do something to be pragmatic or how would you say, to be more friendly to foreign investment.
Talking about his policies, during his campaign, he made it very clear how he didn't like President Donald Trump's immigration policies and all those border issues that Mexico was having with the United States. How will he tackle this very complicated relationship with Mexico's northern neighbor going into office?
You know, it is said that many Mexican voters want to support him because he is a tough guy against Trump. And people in Mexico say other candidates are too weak vis-a-vis Trump. And Obrador is quite strong. He can hit back against the bullying of President Trump. But in the end of the day, Mexico must find out ways to deal with its neighbor. Well, now let's talk about NAFTA, the so-called North American Free Trade Agreement. Well, so far, I don't see that there should be a quick ending for this kind of renegotiation. Trump said NAFTA is a bad deal for the U.S., and Obrador said a similar sentence. He said NAFTA is bad for Mexico. But, well, I would say that Mexico will not kill NAFTA. Probably there will be a kind of long process of negotiation. But in the end of the day, there should be kind of a bargaining. There should be a kind of a compromise among the three partners.
Professor Jiang, thank you so much for your insight. We appreciate it. And voters in Mexico are also choosing people to fill seats in Congress. Lawmakers will be key to the pursuit of the new president's agenda and in checking potential abuses. We spoke to Laura Carlson, the America's program director at the nonprofit think tank, the Center for International Policy. She gave us her thoughts on the vote.
Parties in power, which have been the Institutional Revolutionary Party currently in power under Peña Nieto, and the traditional ruling party, and the National Action Party, the conservative party, they are attempting to preserve political spaces, and they're focusing more of their attention on these local and legislative races because they have more of a possibility to preserve power there. So what happens is very important. Lopez Obrador could win by a landslide and find himself in a kind of an Obama situation with a legislature against him that severely limits his margin to make what he calls the fourth great historical transformation in Mexico. And then it'd be a battle every day to see exactly how far the president can go. The presidential system is very strong in Mexico. The president has a lot of power. It's not quite as balanced a system as it is in other places. So it's an open question, and we'll know a little bit more when we find out how these legislative races turn out.
This is Global Watch. We have much more still to come on our program. German Chancellor Angela Merkel suffers another blow at home as her domestic partners are alienated by a migration deal in Brussels. And a trade dispute in North America escalates as Canada retaliates with tariffs on American goods. Stay with us.